This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shephered. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, welcome to another fabulous edition of Author U, your guide to book publishing. And I have to say, it's been too long since we've had my stellar guest who's going to be with us, because every time that Joel Friedlander has been on the show, I learned a ton. Takeaways, ideas, ahas. And since he's been on, he has done so much really in the evolution of what I've seen him do with e-marketing, in promotion, in affiliation, in product development, in resourcing and repurposing. If I can sum that all up, that as I watch his own evolution on that, where he's gone from just being another book designer, of which he is a superb book designer. And Joel is literally an award-winning book designer. He is a master of masters in blogging. He's the author of The Self-Publisher's Companion, the expert advice for authors who want to publish, and he just published The Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide. Joel's been launching careers of self-publishers and indie publishers since the mid-90s, and he writes the amazing, award-winning, highly recognized thebookdesigner.com, a popular blog on anything that deals with publishing, from book design, book marketing, and really the future of the book, from whether you should have reviews, should you pay for them, should you not pay for them, should you do, what about taxes, how do you handle taxes, and just a variety of other areas. He's the founder of the online training course, the self-publishing roadmap. And so with that, I just want to jump into it because we're going to focus on the 7 critical tips as we go through this hour together, the 7 critical tips for taking the leap from author to publisher. And with that, hi, Joel. How are you today? All right, where I don't hear Joel, so is he on? You're not looking for him. We don't have him here. So that whole lead up, and where is he, Roy? You want to call him again? All right, so let me just go through and just talk a little bit more about what Joel's doing as we search and find. The new book that he's come out with, the Ultimate Resource Guide, is just really a handy list. It's not something you're going to go to bed and read at night. You're going to be using it, keeping it in your office, your desktop, wherever it's going to be. It's available in both e and print form. And the e version just literally does updating as you go along with that. And you can do a variety of things with that. So it's always going to be current because there's going to be new adds to it. And that we will so Joel's emailing me now. Okay, so let me just say, hang up. We will call back. And that you can expect it. I think what's really good that when you do have the supplemental version, the ebook to the print book, is that you will always have these updated items because there's new groups that will come on that will be recommended within the guide, as well as maybe some old groups might disappear. Or maybe something went forward and it was you couldn't. It was forgotten. Sometimes I know I certainly do that. I always recommend people, and I'm writing something up, and I totally leave it off. I know that for the extravaganza that is just 3 months away now. And I would encourage all of you, please, please, please go to authoru.org and click on the events tab and then bring it in. And it'll show up there. And we'll have that. So let's see if Joel's back with us. Joel, you there?
I am, Judith.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so I'm telling the whole deal about that the advantage of the ebook for the Ultimate Guide is that it's always going to be updated, and you'll be adding and deleting resources as you go on with it. So it's a plus. And tying in with that, then I was talking about the Author U Extravaganza. It's all the speakers are up for this year, and it would be nice if we can have the pleasure of Joel's company back for 2016 when we go forward with that. So, Joel, let's just jump into it. And I led into that we're going to be talking about some of the critical steps that authors have to take to transition from being just a writer, author, to becoming a full-blown publisher. So why don't we just jump into that? And if you've seen a lot who have been successful, you've already seen a lot that have thought they would be successful, but they didn't make it for whatever reason. And actually, I'm going to add on one of the number one reasons why authors do not make it as authors. They've got their book out, but being successful, however they define success, is plain old-fashioned marketing. And someone asked us on the cruise that we just came back from, the Publish at Sea cruise, they asked us this question, well, how long do I have to market my book? And I could hear behind it was, I hate marketing, I just want to write. How long do I have to write my book? And the answer is a question. How long do you want your book to sell? And if you're going to tell me that if you want your book to sell for a long time, then the answer is you have to market for a long time. So, Joel, why don't you jump off on that one?
Yeah, well, that was a really good answer, Judith, and I just want to say thanks for having me on the show again. I really appreciate it. My take on this is I'm actually getting this information from the market in that, as self-publishing and independent publishing has grown and brought more people into the field, it's matured, some authors have had really good success. And I'm not talking just about the people who we read about in the newspaper who just signed a $20 million deal. That's not really what it's about to me. And it's good for them. But, I mean, there are authors out there who've learned the ropes. They've gone through the process. Maybe they got over the hump of publishing that first book. They published a second book, maybe a third book. This is what a lot of authors are doing now since we now have control of the means of production, of being able to produce and effectively market books to readers that we know how to find. So this inevitably, getting this kind of experience, like the first time you go through this process, it's very difficult, challenging, time-consuming, frustrating, and all the rest of it. But, the second time you do it, it's much easier. And you've already got your pieces in place. Maybe you've got vendors you're working with. You know how to upload books. You know what the results of your experiments on your first book were. The second book is much more, people are much more oriented to doing it properly, eliminating the unnecessary stuff, and getting their book to be profitable faster than they did the first time. Now, a lot of people are going through this, Judith. That's what I get, because people, said, like you, I get a lot of questions every day from authors. And I see that people are starting to see publishing as a business. If they have an entrepreneurial streak of any kind, publishing a book will really activate that. Because every book is, particularly a nonfiction book, every nonfiction book is like a little startup in itself. It has all those requirements of kind of a startup business. So as people go through this, they're starting to think about publishing more books. They're starting to think about, hey, I have this expertise now. I have a friend who wants to publish their first book. They don't know anything. Why should they go through that? I'll publish it for them. They can do it under my imprint. There are also authors gathering together in writing collectives, and that's a field that's ripe for cooperative publishing, where some authors take on tasks that they're good at, relieving the other authors of having to do that. Like if one person likes formatting and another person likes marketing, they can both profit from doing that together and laying off the stuff they don't like on their partner or partners. And also, I've also seen authors getting to the point where they really want to jump off and start a small press, where they have an actual editorial philosophy, a direction, a discrete market that they've identified that they already know how to sell to. They then can turn around and go and find other authors with books, i.e. content or product, that would be welcomed by the exact same audience. So I painted there about 3 or 4 scenarios where authors are trying to make this transition into becoming, little micro publishing companies. And I think that that's a great movement on the part of authors who are inspired to do that. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I think there are things you can look at, ways to make it more possible and make your success more assured than just kind of going out there and saying to all your friends, hey, I'll publish your book, because that really is not a winning proposition.
Which they hear all the time, and probably that may be the worst thing to do.
Yeah.
And have your friend publish your book. I mean, I deal with a lot of those disasters that it gets, whether the ball gets dropped or that the expectation that the friend is going to do all these things and they don't do it, or everything fails. I mean, it usually goes wrong. If it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. So it's probably better to, I'm a huge believer, Joe, of the transition. Certainly I did that 15 years ago, transitioning from being a traditional published author to becoming a full-blown independent. And I actually did it. I didn't even know the word self-publishing, because self-publishing meant vanity publishing. That I just went into a full-blown, I started the business from the get-go, because that's what we were going to do. Of course, having an order for 1,000 books will help.
Yeah, that helps a lot. It's a good way to start a business with an order for 1,000 books. Well, I followed that path also. I self-published my first book in 1986, and within a couple of years, I had a publishing company. We had a catalog. I had about 12 or 15 books. We had we were well set up for distribution, which at the time was really super, super important. There was no internet back then. There was no social media. There was no way to reach people except with the traditional tools. And, we used then what we no longer need to use now. Like, we grew our business using classified ads.
Hold on, Joel. I missed my cue. We'll be right back. It's Joel Friedlander with Judith Briles and Author You, your guide to book publishing, and we're deep diving into the 7 tips you need to know.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
Is there a book in you or another? Author You will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Radio Network, broadcasting quality programming to the world.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
So in the first segment, Joel Friedlander, the book designer and one of the best blogs out there, thebookdesigner.com for authors and publishers, went through roughly 3 key critical scenarios that authors need to look at in becoming really turning themselves successful as well as creating a successful business. So one of the things, Joel, I think that it's a good idea to, let's just recap, because I know you've done it on your blog, I've done it on my own blogs, the differences, the huge difference between publish your own book and taking on other authors and trying to make a profitable business out of publishing their books. So should an author just concentrate on themselves, or should they decide, you know what, I'll get a collective together and we'll all do this thing?
Yeah, well, this obviously depends a lot on the individual author and, the kind of books you're writing. For instance, I was describing one scenario that I've seen authors activating recently, and that is creating like a publishing collective. In other words, there might be 3 or 4 authors. Maybe they're even writing in a similar genre. And so it soon becomes obvious that, you got 4 different people, each having to learn how to format a book, each having to learn how to upload the books, having to learn the metadata, having to learn how to market the books. In other words, in the publishing company, and anybody who's been in a publishing company knows this, there are a lot of levels of people who end up working on any specific project, from the proofreaders to the marketers to the editors. So in the publishing collective, the advantage there is that every person doesn't have to become an expert on every single subject you need to know. And rather than just continually hiring people to perform all these tasks over and over again, another approach, and I think a very intelligent one, is to find people with complementary strengths. Like if there's one person who just loves formatting, and there are people, Judith, who actually love formatting. They could just be very happy sitting there churning out pages. And somebody else who really likes social media, and somebody else who really enjoys, in-person marketing, whatever it is. And if you have a group of authors whose books will sell to basically in the same genre or category, you've got an engine that you can put together where people can use the things that they enjoy and are good at and are specialized at, and you're kind of recreating in miniature the structure of a little publishing company. And that can be very pleasant. Now, all of these scenarios, these ones, like the collectives, the small press, that some authors want to start small presses now that are focused on a specific topic, let's say. For instance, if I was writing books about, trees and the best way to care for trees, and I knew somebody who had the best book on how to prune fruit trees, I'd want to get that author and see if they would come in and let me publish their book, because I already have the buyers. I've already got the market because I've been publishing my own book successfully to those exact people. So, I could sit down and start trying to write a book on tree pruning, but if I've got an author who's already got a really good book on that subject, doesn't it make sense to bring them in, and we can consolidate our efforts? I can market this to the exact same people, my same list, community, group, tribe, whatever you want to call it, and I know that they're going to be interested in the book. This makes publishing a lot easier, and you can guarantee yourself more readily that you're going to be successful out of the gate.
So when you're doing these publishings, just because I have my own press that was just designed for me, and then I published a few other authors, are you primarily selling it, that the authors take their books, they sell them themselves? Are you selling it primarily through Amazon, or is there an objective that they're trying to actually get it into the traditional type of bookstore? What do you see?
Well, what I see is that it's very difficult for the single author working alone to be both a writer and a publisher and a marketer all at the same time. Now, there are some people who can do it, like you, Judith. I mean, I've certainly spent a lot of time in this space, but we have to realize that most authors don't fall in that category, including the authors who want to go indie, publish their own books. It's very exciting, it's fast, it's fun, it's a great form of expression. But on the other hand, if you do put together a group of people and you have more books, I mean, think of the outcomes you can get. For one thing, you have a lot more leverage. Like if I've got 3 authors and 20 books, I can go to distributors and make deals for bookstore distribution. Now, it's really, really hard for a single author with 1 or 2 books to do that. Most distributors won't even talk to you. They're not interested. And, getting into a really good deal for bookstore distribution can be a huge factor in growing a small publishing company. I know it was for me when I was doing this, a long time ago. And it's still true now, because if you want your books in bookstores, you have to be able to sign with a distributor. And, let's face it, if you're a single author going in there, they don't know if it's a hobby, if you're going to get tired of it in 6 months, or your book doesn't sell well, you're just going to quit. So it's not reassuring to other business entities. So this gives authors a way to come together, without having to create, like I'm going to be the publisher, you're going to be my underlings, to create a cooperative venture, and actually get a lot of benefit. Another example is just, for instance, with Ingram. Right now, a single author, your only choice is Ingram Spark. Now, there's nothing the matter with Ingram Spark, but I prefer using Lightning Source. I think Lightning Source is a much better alternative, but they will no longer even talk to you if you don't have a whole publishing plan, X number of books in print. They say 20, but I think if you had, 5 or 10 good-selling books that were obviously intelligently produced for the market, they would probably give you an account. So all of these things start to open up to you. And, even pooling your marketing budgets. If I've got $100 and you've got $100 and Sally's got $100, okay, now I've got $300 I can spend on marketing. And this works really well if all of these books are selling to basically the same market.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have one of the challenges, and a lot of authors just don't realize it, and I've gone through some really head-banging times with the distribution route where I've had big distributors and smaller distributors and just trying to do a really true reality check, and that I've had better luck working with a smaller distributor just because I can get someone on the phone and talk to them and figure out what's going on. But the Ingram is, my understanding, it's 10 books for them to take you on as an individual. I like the idea of the possibility. I mean, I tell you, my mind is already churning for the, maybe we create an Author U collective, for the AuthorU.org association that I head up. But you have to have some really stern criteria of what kind of quality book, because you're going to go downhill really quick. One of the issues, Joel, that I have really found is that most authors don't understand the real cost of distribution. I mean, you've got, number one, you're going to have some type of a warehousing cost to you directly, or you have to sell X amount of books, move X amount of books out a month before to get that little charge weight. But they don't understand that the books get sent back, and bookstores send books back very routinely, that these books come back, there's going to be possibly a restocking fee, or you may also get hit for shipping, so that if you have one or two turnarounds of a book that doesn't sell, you are all of a sudden in the hole. And that's the business of publishing that authors have got to get. So I think it's really important from the get-go that they figure out how they're going to move their books and where they're going to move them through.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been there with the distribution, Judith, just like you. And, it's challenging. But, look, this is, the criteria, making sure you've got the right books, this is all business. You have to make the leap into, instead of being an author who's having fun, putting a book out maybe about their travels or a memoir or something, and just doing it kind of as a hobby. What I'm talking about is someone who really is got bitten by the bug, and just loves the publishing process and actually sees through experience that it's actually a very good business if you do it properly. So I'm talking about running it as a business, and that is the big difference, I think, in trying to make this leap. But, for instance, in your scenario, you're perfectly set up for a collective. I mean, think of how many authors might like to take advantage of that just in your group. And I'm sure there, because you're advising them, I'm sure there are quite a few of them who are actually achieving pretty good sales.
Yeah, a ton of them would, and I have to, I have to do a gloat. We're about 1 minute away from a break here, but Barnes & Noble here, the biggest Barnes & Noble store here in Colorado, which is where Author U is based, although we have members all over the country, is the home base. They're going to do a book fair, Author U Day on May 2nd.
Outstanding. That's terrific.
It's fabulous. So from beginning of the store open until the store closes, we will be positioning for authors every 90 minutes, signing their books. But here's the other cool thing, that for everyone who buys a book and has one of our coupons, it doesn't matter if it's one of our authors' books or any book in store, they will make a donation back to Author U, which is, how cool is that? So with that, we'll take a quick break. I love the idea collectives. Joel Friedlander is opening up a whole new window of ideas here on Author U, your guide to book publishing. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network. Radio with a cutting edge.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title entitled Enhancing the Promotion of Your Book During Infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, with me is Joel Friedlander. He is the book designer, has one of the best rated blogs for authors and publishers to go to, especially in the indie and self market. And I've always said, by the way, for our listeners who do envision, who do dream of selling to traditional publishing via New York or a New York type of house. First of all, I'd love to sit down and talk to you and give you the pros and cons. But the other thing is that no matter what you do, you still need to know all this stuff, because even if you get an advance, whether it's $5,000 or $50,000, I don't care what it is, what publishing expects you to do in the traditional line is whatever you get, you're going to take that money and you're plowing it right back to marketing and hiring a publicist. So you're going to be back in charge, and you need to learn to know this stuff. So Joel's opened up a great gate here with cooperative publishing, which I'm interested now in following down the path, and I want to have a longer conversation with him so I know before I put both my feet into the fire. But it's another ways for the power in numbers. And would you say, Joel, it's a power in numbers?
Absolutely, and it's avoiding unnecessary repetition. It's a way to really actually spend more time writing and less time, away from it on other tasks. Particularly if you have the right partners and everybody understands what's going on. Now, another thing that really a lot of authors, and I don't know if this is as prevalent with your authors, Judith, but I know it is with the people I talk to, and that is people have to understand that they are going to have to move away, at least partly away, from print on demand. Now, print on demand really was the first thing that created the whole self-publishing explosion. Because print on demand, it's a great, great innovation. I use it, and, it eliminates the need to put a lot of money into inventory with all the risks that implies. On the other hand, print on demand is very restrictive. It's really great for selling single books one at a time on the Internet. Like your Amazon book, you upload that to CreateSpace, and the whole thing is automatic. It's beautiful. It works great. But when you want to start talking about book distribution, bookstore sales, distributors, you're going to have to make the move away from print on demand and start printing your books by offset. And this is kind of frightening for a lot of authors. Offset book printers and distributors don't have the kind of easy-to-use, author-friendly interface like CreateSpace or Ingram Spark has. These are manufacturing operations. They speak a specialized language, and, they're going to print like 1,000 books for you. They're going to want to check for those before you ever get the books. So you have to kind of know, how to buy the right books in order to make that transition. And this is something I've talked to a lot of authors about because, Judith, as you know, there are big advantages to being able to print your book offset instead of being eternally tied to that one-at-a-time print-on-demand system.
Yeah, and I have to tell you that I personally have, and for any of my titles, my 31 titles, I have never done a POD. That I have always gone the offset route, where I've done anywhere from usually 1,500 to 3,000. To me, there was no reason to go over 3,000, and I wasn't selling through bookstores. I've sold over 1 million copies, Joel, but 95% plus have never touched book scan or
and
a
that,
retail
that's traditionally the way, self-publishing always used to work back in the old days before print on demand. I offset, I'm an experienced book printer. I was a production director in the printing industry, in the publishing industry, so it's not that big a deal to me. But, many of the very specialized self-publishers who were pioneers in this business did it exactly the same way you did. They did not distribute through bookstores. They had other ways, direct sales usually, of one kind or another. And all of those books were printed offset. You get a better quality book at a lower price. The only problem is you have to be able to pay for them, and then you have to know how to handle the books once they're delivered.
Yeah, well, that's why I approach the whole publishing thing this is a business from the get-go.
Yep.
And getting into that. But and one of the things I've always done, and I've always encouraged all my authors I work with, is you need to know what your break even is. Okay, so if you've got consultants, you've got design, you've got this, you've got your printing, blah, 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 how many books do you need to sell to move past that point? Is it 400? Is it 600? Is it 8? How many books? And then the strategy part of that business is what can you do to pre-sell or have those ready to go so you will come out of the chute pretty clean, and then you start letting it roll. And that was always my strategy on how I operated. So I was always, basically ahead of the game. And I started pre-selling
a book. It's worked pretty well for you, hasn't it, Judith?
Yes. Yeah. And I started pre-selling 6 months before a book was out. Sometimes, Joel, I'm confessing here to everyone, I actually sold a book before I ever wrote it. And even without having a cover, knowing that would morph too. So, I was kind of gutsy, and that's how I did it. But I had a huge fan base from the speaking circuit. And that's where I was, a certain group that I went into. And that's just all part of the business plan. And there's sometimes that I would abort a book because it wasn't clicking, it wasn't ticking. But you see, I hadn't put a whole bunch of money into it. I had research, and maybe I had started writing, but I didn't go through the production side, which is, as you know, Joel, can be very heavy and costly. So I love it that you have said why authors need, I wrote down, this is going to be one of my little tweets that I go out with, why authors need to really think about moving away from POD. Because if you are going to be in a collective or on your own, and if you are going to be directing toward a higher chain, and you want bookstores, I can tell you, I can tell a print-on-demand book just about anywhere. And that
and you won't find a lot of them in your neighborhood Barnes & Noble either, will you, Judith? There just aren't a lot of them there. Yeah.
No. And you aren't going to find a lot of them in libraries. In fact, one of the things, Joel, I learned when I had the president of the Library Association on as a guest, and she revealed where they go to look for reviews, they don't go to Amazon. They go to Goodreads, although, as you know, Amazon owns Goodreads. But they go to Goodreads to see what the consumers are saying and determine what they're going to add to their collections. And that was very telling to me. So there is that out there. And I think that when you're talking about building the business, that you do have to look at, okay, what's a higher quality book? And I have to say to our listeners, at the Author U Extravaganza, May 7th to 9th, we will have many of the top printers there where you can literally sit and talk to them. And, a lot of these guys and gals are great to brainstorm with because they'll have ideas and make suggestions that you might not even thought about, from cover embellishments, from even, things you can do with the interior. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I actually ran into some people I knew when I was out at the Extravaganza from Thompson Shore and some of the other manufacturers. Now, I just want to put in a pitch for the Extravaganza because I was there 2 years ago. You invited me out to do a presentation. I just had a fantastic time, and I've been talking about it ever since because I've been to a lot of publishing industry events. And I have never been to one that had such good energy and so much engagement, both with the participants, with each other, with the presenters, the faculty, the way the whole thing was organized. Judith, you put on a fantastic show, and I'm not just saying that because I like you. I'm saying it because it's really true. I was quite impressed by the whole experience, even more so because I had just come from Chicago, where I was at the IBPA, Independent Book Publishers Association event, which is a great educational event. But the energy level was nowhere near what it is at the Author U extravaganza.
Yeah, and we've added on auctions since you were there, so wait till you come back to that. And we've got Shark Tanks. We have the Author Shark Tank that we do.
Yeah, I was there for that first Shark Tank. That was really awesome, fun, and very educational.
My God, last year someone walked away with $10,000 worth of stuff, including a round-trip ticket to Germany that was underwritten to finish his book that is just getting ready to come out. So there's just all kinds of things for everyone. Go to authoru.org, click on the tabs event, the event tab, and all the speakers are up, including, I'm really excited, Joel, not only are we doing foreign rights, how to sell your books foreign rights, but we've got an expert coming in on how to develop a short or TED Talk, which I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Oh, nice. I'd love to hear that one.
Yeah, so for our nonfiction authors who are listening in, you want to know how to do a TED Talk. If you're going to the corporate market to speak at, it's critical to know how to do these shorter talks. That's how they're developing a lot of their programmings and their internal conferences as an FYI. All right, so let's
20 minutes, isn't it, Judith, the TED Talk?
Yeah. TED Talk is 18 minutes or less. But,
18,
they're 18 minutes, that's their magic number. And there's a lot of them that are less. So with that, let's continue to talk about some of the evolutionary changes that you see coming along, and again, let's kind of dive back into these some of your critical tips here. One of those tips is you need to think outside of the POD box. Did I hear that right?
Absolutely. Get ready to make the move to learn about how to print offset, or talk to your book designer. If you've got a book designer who you've enjoyed talking to, you have good communication, they are going to be your great resource when you make this transition into publishing more as a business than as a hobby, because they know all about printing books and book distribution. A good book designer has been doing this a long time. They know the ins and outs of the market. You might want to hire a Book Shephered to help you along as you make those first moves. But, your book designer is a really good resource. They know about offset printing. They can get quotes for you. They can recommend printers. They can give you an idea about what it's going to cost. And,
all right. And so with
that's a great place to get started.
Great. And then with that, we're going to take our final break here. I can't believe it. So when we come back with Joel Friedlander, we're going to hit all of these tips very quickly and go through them. And you're listening to Author U, your guide to book publishing. I'm Judith Briles, and I'm one of those book shepherds. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the Book Shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the Book Shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me is Joel Friedlander, and he's known as the book designer. He's got lots of books, brand new baby out called The Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide, both available on print and e-version. And Joel told me off the air that they are just getting ready to do the revision. So, Joel, how long should they wait before they get the ebook so it has a revision?
The revised ebook will be out in about a week. But, we will, there is a mechanism that many of the retailers have where once we update the book, they'll make it available to anybody who's already bought it, and you can just download the new version.
Oh, terrific. Cool. So then you can just, that's very cool to handle it that way.
And
so I certainly vote
that and spread the word around to all, as far as we can as soon as it's available. But I think it's going to be done in about a week. I'm really excited about it. We did a big review program, and we got about 150 reviews on our Amazon site there. And so obviously people are responding to it, which is great. Now, there were two more things I wanted to talk about, Judith, about the making the move from being an author to being a authorpreneur, or, starting to see your publishing activities as a business. And we talked a lot about, getting together, collectives, small presses. But, two of the other things that I see is, one is you really kind of need to pay attention to your network. That is, like your peers. Who else is doing similar kinds of things, other authors that are publishing in the same basic genre, people who at one time you might have thought were your competitors. You're going to start seeing them as your collaborators, because you all have basically the same aim. And let's face it, books don't compete with each other head-to-head. Buying one book doesn't eliminate, usually, in most cases, buying another book. And in fact, people who buy in genres usually buy many of the books in their genre because that's what they love. If you're a sci-fi reader, man, you're just going to plow through the whole sci-fi genre because that's fun. So, paying attention to networking is something that most authors who tend to be introverts don't really like to do. But if you're going to do it as a business, there is nothing I can think of that is more powerful than, besides your own author platform, like your platform, Judith, that you were talking about before, that enabled you to publish a lot of books and sell them. The other thing that's the most important thing is your network, who you're connected to, who you can help, who can help you, who has a community of interests with you. So that, I think, is really big, and it's something that most authors, I find, actually have to think about and then start getting involved in. Now, having said that, I want to make my last point before I run out of time, and then we can talk about whatever. And that is the whole concept, which we've talked about, Judith, over the years ad nauseum, but many people don't ever do it, and that is what we call repurposing content. Now, that sounds like a really cool idea if you're an author, but, let's face it, publishing, most people who are publishing have a day job. They've got a lot on their minds. They got a family. They got to make the mortgage. They're doing the book. They're trying to put as much time in as they can. But, let's face it, we don't have a lot of time. So frequently the whole idea of repurposing sounds good, but nobody ever does it. And when you start, this is the other big leap. When you start looking at your publishing as a business, like, for instance, at the end of the month, you sit down and say, well, how much did this business generate in profits for me this month for the time I put in? And when you start doing that, you're going to discover that repurposing your content is one of the best things you can do for your business. In other words, if you've got a book and you put a lot of time and energy, expertise, research into creating useful, actionable content, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't take the exact same content and reform it into other ways of distributing it to people who are interested in your topic. And believe me, it doesn't matter that it's already in the book or on your blog. If you can repackage it in a way that's appealing to people, they will buy it. And that's a good thing. They're getting something that helps them, and you are getting a product like a book. Maybe it's not a book this time, but you're getting a product out of your research. You're doubling or tripling the effect of what you've already spent all that time producing. So if I have the book on tree pruning, for instance, and it's selling pretty well, people seem to like it, I have effective methods, and I know how to communicate them, then maybe I want to do a series of videos showing people how to do what's in the book. I could then call that a training course and sell it, right?
Exactly.
I could break the book down into smaller books and sell those at a lower price for people who don't want to buy the big book. I could do so many different things with that same content that will really enhance my business, because it'll give me more products in more formats, reaching more people than I have if all I have is a book.
Well, Joel, I had this exact discussion actually earlier this morning with a new client where she came in with a book, and we've already got you've got a workbook, you've got this, and you've got this. So we came out with 4, and I had a client came in with what I called the mothership, and did a book called Adrenal Fatigue Syndrome. By the time he was done, because it was such a heavy baby, that I said, no, there are natural, this is not book repurpose, but there's other variations too. And by the time we were done, he had 15 books and never even saw it with that kind of area. And I was sharing with you offline that, I wrote a book called Show Me About Book Publishing 3 or 4 years ago. And I actually was going to do a solo show here. And I pulled out just one of the chapters about publishing timelines. And I ended up splitting it in 2 because there was so much information in this one chapter as I added on my dialogue. And the aha that dropped in is, holy schmoly, this is a separate little book. And then I did the same thing on publishing costs. And it turns out that those are the 3 biggest podcast downloads of the 175 shows I've done. And so the universe is a little bit telling me something. And this is what the purpose, everyone listening in, you need to understand. What do you talk about? What chapters do people tell you in your books that you've got right now that just resonate with them and that they go back to over and over again? That could be a standalone product, which is exactly what I'm doing now in creating the Author U mini guides. And it's going to be critical timelines, critical costs for independent Indian self-publishing. Those are separate products that now are going to roll out. There'll be ebooks, there'll be print books, there's even going to be audio. All that from another book that I did a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Repurpose it.
Absolutely.
Repurpose it.
Yeah.
All right, Joel,
there's so many ways to do it. You start thinking outside the book, if I can coin a phrase, then you start discovering all of these incredible ways you can use this exact same content you developed. You worked hard on putting together the cost of self-publishing. That takes some work to put that together. I know because I did it on my blog. And, it's the same thing with blogging. I'm a big fan, particularly for nonfiction authors, of using the blog as the top of the funnel kind of marketing tool. and a way to engage a large group of people who are interested in your topic. So, for instance, I wrote articles about copyright and ISBNs and all that stuff, and I created a whole series of little mini books, a few years ago. And, people tell me with their dollars which ones really are the things that people want to know about. So I've got 5 of those, Judith, and the one that outsells the other 4 combined easily is the book on copyright, because that confuses people. And that little book, which is, I believe, $10 PDF, sells off my site every single day of the week.
Don't you love it? So that's your king. All right, so we have got 2 minutes. What I would love to you do, can you do a recap of your 7 tips kind of in one-liners as we go through these?
Yeah, I definitely can. And now, remembering that your book is a startup business and that you should treat it that way. Thinking about your audience, like what they like, what they need, and does that imply to you the works of other people as well, or other things that you could produce? Because getting to know your audience is the most important thing for any book publisher.
Exactly. All right, next.
Concentrating on newcomers to your field. And that's really important because that's the biggest group of people in any particular field. Repurposing your content, we just talked about that. Paying attention to your network of your peers. They're going to become more and more important as you grow your business. Try to avoid distractions. Don't try learning all the skills that are needed in book publishing. Either partner with other authors or hire people you know and trust or develop a relationship with. And be open to experimenting. Because like all the stuff we've been talking about, book distribution, repurposing, you have to kind of get out of the mind frame of, well, another book, another book, another book. There's a lot more to it than that.
And that kind of sums it up in a very quick period of time. But the bottom line is people can be successful. And can you make money, all of you listening in, with your words? And both Joel and I will tell you, yes, you can. Can you make, I've made a lot of money with my mouth that was fueled by my words. So it's about the business. And I love the phrase, think outside your book. There's a lot there. And so Joel will coin that, credit you on it. And we just have to have you back. And you have to make sure you come to the extravaganza in 216.
I would love to do it, Judith.
Put it on your date. It's going to be May 5th through 7th. I'll just tell you what the dates are. And with that, we're going to say thank you to Joel Friedlander. Get his book. You can find everything on Amazon. Make sure you sign up for his blog at thebookdesigner.com. This is Judith Briles, and you're listening to Author You, your guide to book publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each